Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tax reforms aim to overhaul Nigeria's tax system. The proposed reforms are outlined in 4 primary bills. You have the Nigeria Tax Bill 2024, Tax Administration Bill, Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill 1. Now, there are a number of things that will follow that. An increment in the value-added tax, a phased increase in value-added tax, VAT, from 7.5% to 10% by 2025, and 12.5% by 2026, and 15% by 2030 onwards. There's also excise duty on telecommunications and different other things, including some postpaid and prepaid services regulated by the Nigeria Communications Commission. We have the corporate income tax adjustment, which will exempt small businesses with annual turnovers below 50 million from corporate income taxes, while implementing a progressive tax structure for larger corporations. There is also a development levy, a levy that companies that are accessible profits to fund the Student Education Loan Fund. These reforms, they say, aim to simplify the tax system, enhance compliance, and create a more business-friendly environment. However, it has also sparked controversies and debates, with some arguing that the reforms could centralize tax collection and reduce revenue autonomy for state governments. Is this so really? We'll find out tonight, because this is the Eastern Eye, and I'm Alex Obodo. You're welcome to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV. It's a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Joining me tonight is Anitche Ndudim Rowland, financial analyst and the CEO of Rugon Capital Limited. I'm sure you're already used to seeing Anitche Ndudim on this program, analyzing those issues that are tough nuts in the financial sector. Thank you, Anitche Ndudim
Alex,
Rowland,
thank you
for
very
coming
much
on the program. So, very quickly, I'm sure this will be the first time I'm asking you questions directly regarding the tax reforms. There's been a lot of pushback from the North and a few other places in the country. Do you think that your objections are founded, those that are pushing against the tax reforms, before we get into the reforms itself?
Okay, let's go back to the PIB, Petroleum Industry Bill, that was pushed forward from Yar'Adua. He died. Jonathan took over and made a push for it. There was some pushback from the North because they felt he's from the oil producing area and he might be skewed towards his region. Those were the fears. Until he left, Buhari came and he lobbied, and the PIB, Petroleum Industry Act, was passed. So it's the same thing playing out with the tax reform bill. The president is from Lagos State, that is the highest revenue generating state, basically from VAT, with the bulk of all the head offices of multinationals and blue chip firms domiciled in Lagos. So there's also that fear that it is most likely skewed towards Lagos. So that's the impression, more especially from the North. And so they've engaged in different town hall meetings to explain, and even with the governors forum. And they seem to have been making headway to allay fears with more enlightenment.
So at the end of the day, it's the fear is that Lagos is about to take everything.
Exactly.
And then the question will be, why would Lagos take everything?
No, it's an impression which has been dispersed.
Yes, but
you still see some reservation.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's my own mind. That's my own interpretation.
That's right.
But they not have their own issue. But it should not be a north and south thing.
Sure.
We need to look at the merits.
Yeah, we will do that. We will do that. But I need us to get this out of the way before we delve into the issue itself. So Lagos currently contributes the largest
Exactly.
to the tax coffers of Nigeria.
Yeah.
But from the calculations, it doesn't appear that Lagos is getting as much as it gives to the Federation. So that's another side of the argument.
That's another side of the argument.
So is that also good? Because if you are from Lagos, perhaps you are the Lagos governor, and you are paying attention to how the taxes are moving in and out, and then when it is shared, you don't quite get as much. I think upwards of 2 trillion, I heard, that they contribute to the, I think from January to September, that's about the amount they have chalked up, about 2 trillion. I hope I'm correct with that. And then when you share it, Lagos don't quite get as much.
Okay,
Because they're trying to move it around.
That's part of the innovations the tax bill is introducing, where it is no longer from derivation, where the state, where the head office is of the companies producing goods and services and domicile. Rather, it's going to be at the point of consumption in the states. So that's part of the innovations. That's part of the introduction of this bill.
That's right.
Well, maybe we will come to it because I also have issues about it.
Yes, and no, I mean let's delve into it.
Okay,
So now that you've mentioned it, so how do you calculate that consumption? Because that's where there's a problem.
That's a big question.
Who determines that? Perhaps in this part of the country, this is Enugu, for instance, and let's use just a John Doe product, right? Maybe it doesn't have a name.
Whose head office is
maybe
in Lagos?
a cell phone, a particular cell phone, and then suddenly a lot of people in Enugu are buying it. They buy it a whole lot. And then how do you record that the sales really went up here? And how do you actually benefit from having made more sales in Enugu in terms of someone who's collecting a tax?
I think that's the biggest question I have. And it behoves on the NRS, which is going to be no longer FRS, Nigerian Revenue Service. It behoves of them to explain to Nigerians how it's no longer going to be the head office that are filing their tax returns, because it's all about if you run a limited liability company, you're mandated to file your tax returns on a monthly basis based on goods and services you have rendered. Now, the question now is, okay, if I have a good, if I produce a good and I'm based in, let's say Enugu, and I have a key distributor, let's say I'm into soft drinks. We don't want to mention any name here. I produce a soft drink in Enugu, and I have a key distributor in Maiduguri, that's Borno State. How would I, if I'm filing my returns, because the goods was not consumed in Enugu, it was consumed in Borno. How will I now file my tax returns here? Normally, when you file your tax returns, that transaction that you consummated here, you supplied, you're supposed to remit the tax in Enugu. But now that it's consumed in Borno, how will my company now file the same tax? Or maybe when I file the tax returns, I will state it's in Borno. So that consumption was actually done in Borno, so the credits or the remittance will also come from there. But this is something FRS has to come up on board to explain to Nigeria, so that the myth about Lagos with head office, myth about Lagos and Ogun State, and maybe Port Harcourt is addressed. And it will not be, okay, it will not behove on states to ensure that they have conducive environment for more economic activity, so that there's more economic activities and they have more friendly environment to attract more population, more economic activities, and drive growth in that area. So that's the paradigm shift. So that every state is competitive. That's a beauty. But I think FRS has to come up on board and tell us, okay, how are we going to navigate from central pooling of VAT, where the head offices are, to the states? That's one area I need clarification based on all the town hall meetings they've been doing so far, which will also dispel rumor, fears, basically from the north, that, hey, this thing is not to undo anybody. We're all a federation where every federation needs to be competitive. I hope that's clear.
Yeah. Okay. Just for some reason, just been going through a lot of things, and just read something written by the man who's behind all this, and Taiwo Oyedele. The tax reform bills before the National Assembly say it is aimed, or they are aimed at economic transformation to empower Nigerians and facilitate inclusive economic growth. But that, by the way, that's not Taiwo Oyedele. That's Zulum. That's Zulum, just in case. I was not saying that so that Zulum will pop up. So, number one is the Nigeria tax bill. It harmonizes all the major taxes, such as corporate income tax, personal income tax, and the value-added tax. They have the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, which provides framework for tax management, covering taxpayer identification, registration, assessment, collection, enforcement, etc. You have the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, which seeks to replace the FIRS, like you mentioned, with the NRS. It will now be Nigeria Revenue Service, to perform a broader role of revenue administration in Nigeria and drive collaboration with subnational governments and MDAs. And then you have the fourth one, which is the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill, which will transform the JTB, the Joint Revenue Board, to JRB, that's Joint Revenue Board, with an expanded mandate and enhanced role for cooperation and tax harmonization. The bill also sets up the Office of the Tax Ombudsman to protect taxpayers and advocate for tax simplification. Altogether, is saying that the bills offer a comprehensive overhaul of the nation's tax framework to drive economic growth, support Nigerian households, and position the country as a competitive economy within the Committee of Nations. So the reforms reflect a commitment to equity, efficiency, and sustainable development. I mean, there are various other things, but I think you get the point. He's the main salesman for this set of bills before the National Assembly.
Yeah.
But then the North, you saw Zulum a while ago. Maybe a PCR should pop him back on the screen. Professor Babagana Zulum says that this will impoverish the North. The current sharing formula, is it making the North richer?
No.
So
is it making what?
He said it will make the North, it will impoverish the North if they allow the bills to pass. And then the question I'm asking, is the current setting enriching the North? Because what it will mean is that if he says that, it means that currently the North is getting something buoyant from the current sharing formula, that they are thinking that this one will impoverish them.
Okay, Alex, I don't want us to turn this to a
we need to.
Okay,
everything will have to be discussed on its merits.
Okay.
A Nigerian made a statement, but he particularized his statement to his region. So we have to analyze it based on how he. I cannot change what Zulum said because it's from the North.
Okay, now let's. Personally, there are beautiful reforms in the tax bills. Very beautiful. More especially when you look at even collapsing revenue collection from the MASA and custom into FIRS. Yes, you're trying to block leakages. The country needs money. Very well. And so you want everything collapsed onto FIRS. A good one. Now, coming down to the basics, my concern is the value-added tax. An increase from 7.5% to 10%. 2.5% you might think is a small thing, but it's huge. Nigerians from May 29, 2023 we absorbed two heavy shocks. One of the shocks, I was on this studio, I was in support of it. That's removal of subsidy. I know it will come with pains, but I think we needed to end the wrath in this whole subsidy thing, and so that we can have sanity in the petroleum sector. The president went out. The three presidential candidates, the three major presidential candidates were in support of it. The president took his own decisions. That one is all history. But we could see the backlash in terms of the economic pressure on Nigerians. Energy costs is on the rise. And since that day, we've had 2 hikes. Even when the NLC negotiated for an increase in minimum wage, on this studio, I told you, let's get ready for additional increase in indirect taxes. And even when it was done, price of PMS was hiked again, twice. And so that's a huge drain, and that's a huge shock. As if we didn't come out from that, the value of the Naira took a tumble over 400%. From 400 Naira in 2023, now we're talking about 1,006. These are heavy shocks. And that's why productivity of the country is down. Inflation rates has hit the roof. Now, additional tax on Nigerians will be too heavy at this point in time.
So your point is that the timing isn't right.
At this point in time, additional tax, which is being downplayed, is heavy. Take, for instance, if you buy any product, VAT is pervasive. Both the rich, both the small. Everybody will pay for it. Nigerians' pockets, Nigerians' disposable income, savings, and wealth is depleted. And you are now proposing for a gradual increase from 7.5 to 10, 12.5, and 15 is the destination. Once it's in the act, we will get there faster than that. And that's heavy. It's going to be heavy. And that's where I align myself with Nigeria, the pain from Nigerians. I don't want to dwell on Zulu, more interested in the North.
Yeah.
We're looking at the entire country.
I mean, those in the North are Nigerians.
Exactly. So it should be, Nigerians are going through pain right now. And this additional one you are going to send down our throats will be too much to bear. That's my take. And that's my position I'm taking. That part of the bill should be suspended.
All right, the increment.
That increment.
Should let things be the way they are.
Let things be so that when the economy peaks, we can reintroduce it. When I mean when the economy peaks, you will see marginable prosperity or growth on incomes and wealth of Nigerians. You can bring it back.
All right, we'll take a break. When we return, there is another conversation brewing, and that's all right. Since if you do more economically, you probably get more from the taxes you pull into the federal coffers.
Yeah.
So what now would be the fate of the Southeast? Itinerant, enterprising, and industrious. So when will the money start working for all those industrialists from the Southeast? But the first question will be, are the headquarters of their companies, are they located in the Southeast for them to reap the benefits therein? Join me after the break here on the Eastern Eye. Welcome back to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV. It's a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. My name is Alex Obodo, and still have here with me financial analyst and CEO Rugon Capital Limited, Anitche Ndudim Rowland. Thank you so much. So there are lots of things to talk about, but let's talk about Southeast interests. Because at the end of the day, even with the assessments made between January and September this year, Southeast contributed the least to the value-added tax coffers.
Oh, wow. Sorry, I've not seen the data.
Yeah, that's what it is. The Southeast, the Southeast and the South-South are the least contributors to the value-added tax, January to September. I'm not saying perpetually all the years. I mean,
correct.
a lot of reasons may have been adduced for that, but then a lot of people will want the Southeast to get more because of that outlook that people here, let me use the word, that they hustle, that they do, but then how much of that hustle trickles down to the East?
Okay, now, we're predominantly into commerce, buying and selling. And within that trading activities, is the VAT actually captured and remitted to FIRS? That's the big question. If it's captured at the top, maybe a major producer of a good, and his business is located in Lagos, that's where it will go. That's why I said I would appreciate it if FIRS would come up and tell Nigerians how, at the consumption points in the states, we will now see the results. You have so many dealers in this region of fast-moving consumer goods, manufacturing, building materials, traders. So, because they are paying for it, and with this new change where it will now be at the point of consumption, it will give us a beautiful picture of what's actually happening along the entire country, across the entire country. So that we will now know, okay, every region, this is what you are contributing from consumption when it comes to VAT, what you are contributing from the states to NIRS. So these data will now have a different look. Like I said, every state will be forced to ensure its environment is conducive for business, to attract more Nigerians to live and stay and be productive. That's the beauty of this. They want every state to be productive. It's a good, the aims of this tax reform is good. So is good. I only have, like I said, I only have 3 issues that need to be pointed out. 1, the VAT has to be suspended. 2, NRS should tell Nigerians how it's going to play out, no longer from derivation but consumption in the States. And 3, when I saw it, it's 800,000. People earning 800,000 annually below will be exempted from tax. You and I know that with the minimum wage,
there's hardly nobody in that bracket.
There's nobody. Minimum wage is 70,000 naira per month times 24 is 840. So the least person that earns 70,000 naira will actually pay personal income tax. Same also for any states that pay 70,000 or 80,000 and above. Will be that least person is liable to pay personal income tax. So there's basically no exception, except maybe in the private sector that they pay below that. Basically, any federal or state worker is liable to pay personal income tax.
All right, and so at the end of the day, there is a gap in record keeping. For instance, if you are bringing goods from Lagos to Enugu, or from Lagos to Owerri, from Lagos to Abakaliki, how do you prove that those goods were sold here? Because that's the only way you can say, all right, if there's going to be a tax, it's here.
It behoves on FIRS
to provide a modality.
To exactly, and to tell Nigerians how these things will be tracked. It's not my duty. Because the bone of contention is the head office of these companies that produce these goods.
Yes.
They file the returns on a monthly basis. And so it will be pulled from there. They pay it up, not at the point of consumption.
Okay. Another concern that we've seen now there is that there's an accusation on the Tinubu administration that they want to centralize everything, revenue collection. And they are saying that this will rob the states the ability to really, flex their muscles in terms of how they also collect taxes. Do you envisage that this could be a problem over, I think it's called government classes back then, fusion of powers? There's too much power in the center. And if FIRS now becomes NRS, and it holds even greater power than it's currently holding, that it may be like giving a monkey a cup of water.
No,
The problem may not be giving him the water, but it's collecting the cup back.
If you look at even the sharing formula, the federal government even ceded 5%.
That's right.
So it must be put out there that, okay, they ceded more to the states, so more revenues to them in terms of
But the argument still is that the states are actually where the action is, not at the federal level.
Yes, no doubt. But you see, the problem is most states even tell they want to end double taxation because you pay VAT on the goods. The state's internal revenue service comes to you like most joints now. I've been hearing they charge them for consumption tax. I'm not like, hey, this is double taxation on the same good. The tax has already been paid. We're not doing anybody. We're actually killing ourselves. We're shooting ourselves in the foot because that person gets poorer. The person buying it, you're taking money out of him. Everybody's just taking money from each other. I mean, it's a zero-sum game. It's a zero-sum game. Businesses go down, pockets go down, everybody goes down. If you collect this time around, in 1 year, 2 years' time, will it be sustainable? So these are the issues FRS, this tax bill seeks to clarify. And so that there's no window of states trying to add additional consumption tax, which leads to double taxation. So states has to be very creative in terms of looking at ways they can make money
And
provide conducive environment.
What ways do you think that are available to states to make that money? I mean, the way things are, if you are told to say, okay, which states are you looking at to say, yeah, I think this state can easily pick up and start running?
Let's take. Now, the Northeast and the Northwest has now been bedeviled with banditry. With landmass, they can feed the entire Nigeria and even export. That's something. Agriculture is not subject to tax. It's exempted. If you go into agriculture, nobody taxes you a dime. It's only maybe when you now add value. We should even get towards adding value.
That is produce tax.
That's why. I'm just hold on. No, hold on.
It's not nationally recognized, but if you are moving produce, that amount they collect from them that cost a lot of problems.
That's where we need the rails.
Yes.
That's where we need the rails to avoid that. That's one. Now, when you go to the south region, where you have the oil producing areas, with the banditry, kidnapping, the banditry in that axis, since 1963 till date, we shouldn't be talking about 1.2, 1.3. We should have ramped up production of crude oil exploration. We should have ramped up crude oil exploration. We should be talking about 4 million barrels per day. And so that axis becomes a hub. Port Harcourt, Sapele, Warri axis should also become another major hub. And even a seaport there will now become active. So that Lagos is decongested. People can now take their goods to Port Harcourt or Warri or Sapele, discharge their goods and sell. People from the southeast can actually make use of it. And so, it has not helped that region. That's the long-term view. We also have insurgency in the southeast, which has virtually messed up this region. And so people live in fear. People have to be very cautious traveling. Businesses are relocating down, even back to Lagos. We should be talking about bringing businesses down to the region. But people are relocating, even up to Asaba here, with the Monday partial sit at home. We're not doing ourselves any good. And so the whole country, Lagos must not continue to carry the entire country. I was born and brought up in Lagos.
Yes, but
to be precise.
Is Lagos carrying the whole country out of their own wish and volition?
No.
Or is this some kind of political crafting that gave Lagos that advantage? There are ports in other places in Nigeria. Why are those ports not working? To give those areas some leverage.
You see, we're a victim of what we brought on ourselves. And so we all have to sit down and say, okay, how do we navigate away from this? And that's something this tax bill seeks to address, so that states become active promoters of growth away from just federal government. So that should be the big picture we should be looking at. I don't want to call north or south. We should be, as Nigerians.
Well, if you are having a discussion about Nigeria, it is inevitable, because even if you look at how they have compartmentalized how the taxes are raised, they compartmentalize it by geopolitical zones. But then you can identify what states are contributing, but at the end of the day, there's still sum up for every region.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a truism. It's our reality.
Yes.
That is, we have differences, but and so what? We are not the only country that has differences. The US have a lot of people living there. It hasn't become a problem for them. I mean, the only time people remember we are different is when you talk about how to share money or how to share positions. But when Nigeria plays and wins in a football match, everyone is good.
Together.
So meaning there is some form of commonness. But then if a particular part of the country feels that they are being cheated out of the scheme, they have to be listened to. Shouldn't the North be listened to in this complaint? Or is there a problem of how they have tabled the matter? They are saying, we'll walk away. The senators are saying this and that. The governors are threatening this and that. How should the argument be tabled?
Okay.
Should they table it with facts? How the bill will affect them negatively?
No.
And by the way, would it affect the Southeast negatively too, as you're answering that?
Well, funny enough, I'm yet to even see position of the Southeast. They seem to be very quiet on it, and it's sad. It's saddening, because it's a national thing where the Southeast need to make a contribution and come out with a statement and say, this is where we stand.
Yeah, but maybe the general assumption is that if the federal government is ceding 5%, it will now go to the subnationals.
Yes.
And if that happens, naturally, whatever you are getting before is going to increase, at least marginally.
Marginally.
So isn't that some kind of win? Or is the problem that the federal government will now have to take charge in certain aspects of the tax collection, even within the subnational areas? Could that be where the problem is?
It's a federal tax. It's not a state tax.
Yeah, but at the end of the day,
The remits.
the control from the center will increase. That's because if you're reading through that bill, when the name changes, with the nomenclature comes authority.
See, the FIRS Act, or the supposed NRS Act, empowers the federal government to collect on behalf of the entire federation. That is not in contest. The federal government takes care of the individual states. It's a big brother. It's nothing. They have made concessions. Extra 5% to the states. It should not be an issue. I strongly believe it's all about the impact of the additional VAT on Nigerians. And because that part of the country, the North, is heavily, how would I put it? The poverty rate is highest, the illiteracy rate is highest, so they will feel it more. Everybody's going through pressure right now. And that's why I said that part of the act, step it down so that the other benefits of the bill will go through. That's my position. If the North comes to say, okay, in specific terms, this is what we are against, it will be understood. There might be a buy-in, and this is what I strongly will not support: the additional increase in VAT. It should be suspended because Nigerians are going through a lot. I'm going through a lot. My friends running businesses are going through a lot. There is low demand, low patronage. productivity is down, people can hardly fuel their vehicles. Putting additional 2.5 to 7.5, you're going to be taking money from an income that is already in a depressed state. So this is what is before Nigerians. Everybody has been stretched. Trying to grow the economy or trying to through tax or additional tax, no, I will not put my feet behind it. Rather, we should be looking at reducing it so that there's more money in our pockets and people can spend. That's a reverse way. But unfortunately, you find people pushing for additional government increasing investment, government increasing spending. No.
So, however, as we go, we have about a minute.
Yeah.
So perhaps if the cost of petrol, cost of all the things that give us energy reduces, and then the tax remains, would that be fine?
I don't see cost of our energy cost reducing.
So that will go again.
So I don't see, except maybe by the time the next administration in America comes in, there's a massive pump in the increase in supply of crude oil in the market.
That's right.
And it crashes. That's a big fear, which I don't think we are yet ready for that.
Okay.
Because it has its own downsides. If price of crude oil drops, your revenue drops badly.
All right. It's still an ongoing conversation. It's just past second reading at the Senate.
Yeah.
We'll be paying attention to that and whatever positions anyone is taking. And we'll still have more expert analysis on this in the days and weeks to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Ndudim Anitche Rowland, financial analyst and CEO Rugon Capital Limited. And that's the Eastern Eye for tonight. Up next is Nka with Jumai Bulama Ashebu. My name is Alex Obodo. Good night.